Hi, this is Phoenix Gaming, and I'm Chris. Today we're going to do a Let's Dive into Rare Rules, Episode 1, Fight First and Last. Fight First and Last is a mechanic I get asked about a lot. It's one of the ones that requires a little bit more explanation, not because it's a difficult one to understand, but because it's not very clearly worded or very well written. I'm going to break this down into priorities. We're going to have priority 1, which is fight first, priority 2, which is fight normal, and priority 3, which is fight last. I'm going to explain each priority and how they work, and then I'm going to explain how they all work together. And then hopefully you can walk away from that feeling a little bit more comfortable. We're going to do this in a weird order. We're going to go 3, 1, 2, and by the end of it, you'll understand why. So priority 3, fight last. What is it? So there's no actual fight last ability. It's a collection of rules or abilities that are worded similarly to things like the Judiciar. And that's, that a unit or group of units is not able to fight this phase until after all eligible units have done so. There's some other pseudo fight last mechanics. They aren't going to fall under this umbrella. I believe Mindworm doesn't fall under this umbrella because it explicitly states that a unit can't fight until all of my units have done so. So it's like a pseudo fight last. We're only worried about the ones that say the unit is not eligible to fight this phase until after all eligible units have done so. If you have clauses or exceptions, we're not worried about those right now. Once you understand this, you'll kind of understand how those clauses and exceptions work anyway. So a unit that is tagged with a fight last ability, and that's what this is. So there's no actual fight last ability, like I said. It's just a collection of abilities that are worded like this. And a unit that is tagged with one of these just slides down a priority. That's all it does. So if you're in priority 2, normal, you'll drop to 3. I'll explain why 1 takes you to 2 later. Because again, you'll understand. Once we hit the end of this, you're going to be like, holy shit, this was way easier than I thought. Multiple units can be hit with a fight last ability, and if both players have fight last units, you alternate starting with the active player. The active player is just whoever is taking their current turn. So if it's my turn, I'm the active player. If it's your turn, you're the active player. All right. Units that are slapped with a fight last mechanic cannot interrupt, except for when you can. Again, it's a Games Workshop game, so there's always some sort of, addendums or caveats. You can't ever have just a cut and dry rule. So, but the rule of thumb is that basically if you're hit with a fight last mechanic, you're not eligible to interrupt because you're not eligible to fight. So that's really what fight last does. Is it's just a mechanic that takes away your ability to interrupt and then slides you down a priority. Now, we're going to go to the fight first, which is priority 1. Okay? Fight first. Now, there are rules that say fight first. Like when you charge, it says you fight first. The Mark of Slaanesh says you fight first. So there are rules that are actually verbatim say fight first. So all fight first is it's priority 1. So all models that fight first fight in priority 1. And again, they just fight before all other units and models, which means priority 1 fights before priority 2, which fights before priority 3. If both players have units that fight first, you alternate starting with the active player. So basically all this means is that if I'm playing and you're playing and we're playing each other and I charge you and you have an army that fights first, like the witch cult from Drukhari, that's army-wide fight first. I think it's Red Grief. So if you've got a fight first mechanic and I charge you, we just alternate. You effectively just get free interrupts across the board as how that interacts. Okay, so we just alternate until all the priority 1 have fought. Once one player is out of priority 1, the other player just finishes up all their priority 1s without alternating. It's pretty easy. Now, who gets to fight first? Like I said, chargers fight first. Anybody with a fight first rule, such as, like I said, I think it's Red Grief. Anybody with a fight first rule, Emperor's Children, the Mark of Slaanesh lets you fight first. There's some relics and warlord traits that let your heroes fight first. So there's a lot of access to it. And all you need to know is that if it says you get to fight first, it just means you fight in priority 1. That's all it means. Okay, so priority 2. Neither rule. Units that didn't charge, units that are not under the effect of a fight last rule, and units that are not under the effect of a fight first rule. If all three of these boxes are checked, then they just fight in priority 2. So the way to think of it is priority 2 is the natural state for most units. Okay, and then if you charge, you get bumped to priority 1. If you have a fight first mechanic, you get bumped to priority 1. If you are hit with a fight last, you get bumped to priority 3. Units that heroically intervene are still in that fight normal. They're still in priority 2 unless they have a special rule. And then if both players have units that are not under the effects of both fight first and fight last, players alternate starting with the inactive player. So priority 2 is the only priority that starts with the inactive player. The other 2 priorities start with the active player. Okay, so what if I'm under the effects of both rules? Well, if a unit is under the effect of both rules, and this was covered in a big FAQ with a big editor's commentary, okay? Basically, they just cancel each other out, and that's it. End of story. So they don't stack, they don't layer, so it doesn't matter if you've got 10 fight first and 1 fight last, they just all cancel each other out. End of discussion. You can't do like some sort of weird Magic the Gathering shit where you have like a 10 card stack and all kinds of stuff. It's literally just, do you have a fight first? Do you have a fight last? Do you have both? Once you check all those boxes, you move forward. Okay. Units that are under the effect of both are now eligible to interrupt. So remember when I said there was always exceptions? This is the exception. So again, let's say I charge a Justiciar and he slaps me with a fight last. So charging put me from priority 2 to priority 1, and then the Justiciar slaps me down 1 priority back to 2 because I have a fight first mechanic from charging and a fight last mechanic from the Justiciar, and they just cancel each other out. But that also means that I'm now eligible to interrupt because I'm not treated as if I was under the effect of either rule. So I'm no longer under the effect of I'm not eligible to fight. I can do whatever I want to do. I am just priority 2 now. So again, like, this is why I said we're going to do it in this order, because now it should be all coming together, right? You know, so when we look at this right here, this is how I explain it to everybody when they ask. You know, ignore the fight first, fight last, all this other bullshit, and just focus on there's effectively 3 initiative priorities in every fight phase. You have the fight first priority or priority 1, and that's anything that's charged or is under the effect of a fight first rule. You have a fight second priority, and that fight second priority is under the effect of no rules or both first and last rules. So that's basically like units that were charged, units that heroically intervened, units that fight first and were slapped with a fight last. You know, so that's kind of that priority. And then priority 3 is the fight last priority, and you resolve these in this order. So every fight phase, you should be going, okay, priority 1, everything that fights first gets to fight. Once that's resolved, priority 2, everything that doesn't have a fight first or a fight last gets to fight. And then priority 3 is everything that has a fight last gets to fight. So again, this is how I've explained it to great success. I really hope that this helps you out with your 40K, and it helps you understand the fight phase a little bit better. Again, some things to keep in mind is that priority 1 and priority 3 start with the active player. Priority 2 starts with the inactive player. And again, if you've got both rules, then neither rule is treated as being in effect. So if I didn't do a good enough job explaining this, feel free to drop a question or a comment in the comments section, and I'll follow up with you. But other than that, like I said, I hope this explains everything for you. I hope it breaks it down. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. You can find me on Patreon, Patreon/Phoenix Gaming Space, Twitter at 2NerdsChris, and then in addition to that, we're going to be adding some tiers to the Patreon so we can start doing some video requests with the viewers. And the next video is going to be a faction focus for the Orcs. I just don't know what I'm going to focus on just yet. But again, thanks for listening. I appreciate you.